So 8beats began in a Facebook group dedicated to Catholic filmmakers who were just beginning to see each other's work.
You know, Mark Leatherman one day on Facebook tagged me on this post. What do you guys think about doing a film like Kieslowski's Decalogue, but instead of doing it on the Ten Commandments, doing it on the Beatitude?
And when I posted this, I wasn't the only one who had this idea. It was kind of in the ether.
I think many of us felt called to the Beatitudes separately. Like I felt the Holy Spirit touching upon this in me. And then when I found that Sam Sorich and Anthony and others had that same kind of draw to the Beatitudes, I realized there's something happening. This can't just be like total coincidence.
Always had that project in mind, but it had never resurfaced in this way before. So Dave and I were like, whoa, we should pay attention to this. Maybe it's something we might want to do.
And then simultaneously, when we were coming up with this project, the first Catholic Creatives Summit happened.
Catholic Creatives is this community of filmmakers, designers, marketing people, entrepreneurs that all care about this one thing, which is to bring about a new renaissance in the church.
The moment that I see one of these filmmakers and I get to meet them at the Catholic Creative Summit, when I got to sit down with them and I got to talk with them for 2-3 hours each, I was elated. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, could this be real?
Renaissance can't just be done through conversations. There has to be action. And we came together and we decided that we needed to do this project, and that's where we dreamed up 8beats.
We just hit $50,000!
Yeah, we're funded! Yeah!
To 8beats.
And camera speed.
12 Bravo, take 2, Mark.
I guess my knee-jerk reaction was just kind of like, I don't think I'd want to make a religious film.
Some of my first questions were sort of like, well, where can I go with this? How edgy, how controversial am I going to be allowed to go? Because I had no interest in making another feel-good Hallmark Christian movie. That's not what I do.
I talked to the executive producers about it and started to understand the width of the playing field and what was being asked of me, which was to write a story deeply rooted in the Beatitudes, but that would flower out into any possibility.
That's incredibly unique. The Catholic element, the Catholicity of the project itself, but diving into difficult topics, difficult themes, being able to push the boundaries of what faith-based filmmaking is. I think that's one of the most interesting things about 8beats is just how we were able to accomplish what I feel like something that just hasn't been done in the church.
I have never, and I don't know if I will ever again, get to have an experience like making this anthology. We were all in this shared experience of trying to preach the gospel in a way that was accessible to people who would not normally go seeking a film where the gospel is at the heart of it.
I think the most amazing part of the way that this project worked was that God really used it to transform all of us personally as we were making the art in order for us to be able to make the art.
I really had to internalize what the poverty of spirit is. And I had to live it out. I couldn't be a hypocrite. I couldn't turn around and say, no, this is what the poverty of spirit is for Simon, a man who has given himself in to the call, despite what might come. Do I have poverty of spirit?
On the one hand, I spend all this time meditating on meekness. What does it really mean? Putting that into a character, trying to get that made and finished and done. In the midst of that, I sort of stumble into this realization that I need to be a more vulnerable person. It's not just a filmmaker change. I mean, it's sort of there's a life change that has come from that.
The team was kind of divided over the direction we wanted to go in interpreting the Beatitude. And that was a struggle, but it was never, well, I can't say it was never a bad thing, but it ended up being a good thing. It ended up being a really beautiful sort of struggling together, wrestling together, rather than pushing against the other filmmakers.
I think we would have broken apart if we weren't working to make peace.
Yeah, the Beatitudes called us on, like when there was tension. And yeah, when the project could have fell apart, we kept on being called to, why are we making this? And the Beatitudes at every step helped us center ourselves.
It was very painful, this process. And I think, that's that's natural for every creative endeavor, right? There has to be like this moment where you're suffering, right? Because suffering creates growth.
I set out to do one thing, and by the end of it, I didn't exist. And the picking up of those pieces over the last 3 years, 2.5 years, got to the heart of what the project was meant and was about. You can go to the depth of grief, of loss, and come out hopeful and thankful.
I think that we all went into this thinking that it was about making films, and I think in a lot of ways, like God, in all of his, just the way that he moves, you know, he's always like, you think it's about making films? No, this is about like you learning who I am. And so we all had to go into the cave in a way, to learn what it really meant to be pure of heart, or to be poor in spirit, or to be meek, or to be peacemakers, or to grieve. And God really asked us to actually live those things out together. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think 8beats is a real triumph as a model, because we share faith, but we should also share this vocational call. We share all of these other kinds of attributes about what it is to make film in this day and age. And so to be able to have people to talk with about these things, that one felt alone, I felt quite alone in that journey. I no longer feel alone in it, you know. So I know they're always there.
Art can create a space for us to see things, to look at things, to feel things together. We can put it on a screen and we can all step back and look at it. And so it's not a fight. It's not a left versus right, conservative versus liberal, orthodox versus heretic, you know? And it's done with hope. It's done with love.
I think we all kind of went there in our own degrees and our own levels of going there. We all sort of tried to step away from what was expected as a group of Catholic filmmakers and try to create something good and meaningful.
We were so immature when we started this thing. Like, we had no idea what it was going to take.
We made a lot of mistakes. Really terrible mistakes.
When we set out to do this, we said it was going to be groundbreaking. And what that means is that, like, it takes a long time to break ground. That's the hardest part, but once you've gotten beneath the crust, there's a path, there's a rut that's made for everyone else coming after. We're so grateful that you've been patient with us, that you've kind of gone through this journey with us, and now we're excited to share the fruit and the abundance of that long suffering.